Good evening, everyone, and welcome. I'm Judy Gradwell. I'm President and CEO here at the San Diego Natural History Museum, and I wanted to thank you all for coming tonight and welcome you on the Ides of March. Uh, this is supposed to be the day that you repay your debts. So when we're done here, go ahead and do that. Before we get started, I wanted to recognize and pay our respects to the indigenous peoples who are the traditional stewards of the land. Kumeyaay people have lived in this region since time immemorial, and through colonization they were removed. Their traditional knowledge was minimized, but today Kumeyaay people have persisted and they remain a part of this land and society. And their continued legacy of understanding and protecting nature is honored by the museum. And creating genuine and beneficial partnerships is an ever ongoing process and one that we're working on. And if you come back sometime after May or June, you can enjoy part of our new gardens around the building. There will be a place that is looking at tribal knowledge of plants. So please come back for that. I'm glad you all made it around the construction fence. We all know that we live in an extraordinary place, but you may not know that San Diego County is the most biologically diverse county in the contiguous United States. And we've already lost more than 60% of our natural habitat. And so there's never been a more critical time for us to be here for nature. Here at the NAT, we've been a quiet but effective force for conservation for 150 years. Our anniversary is in October. And we were founded by a group of amateur naturalists who got together to share ideas and specimens. And since that time, we've been working to study and document and conserve the plants and animals here in our region, which includes California and Baja California. So every day our scientists are out identifying new species and unlocking the relationships between plants and animals and using our science to conserve wildlife in our region. This is awkward. There we go. So in the coming years, we're going to be a louder, stronger voice. The way I see it, we spent 150 years documenting the slow decline of nature in San Diego, and it's time for us to start working on reversing that. So before we begin the program, I want to have a few reminders for everyone. First of all, there are emergency exits both behind you and behind me. While we do ask that you silence your cell phones, we encourage you to continue tonight's conversation on social media using hashtag NatTalk. So now we're going to get to the program. One of my favorite speakers, coming back by popular demand. This season of our Nat Talks is made possible by presenting sponsor the Downing Family Foundation and media partner KPBS, the public media station serving San Diego and Imperial counties. With that, I am very pleased to introduce our speaker, and I'm going to find my notes because she has such an impressive background. Rachel Ignotofsky is a New York Times best-selling author, illustrator, and designer. She graduated from Tyler School of Art's graphic design program and formerly worked as a senior designer and illustrator at Hallmark Greetings. Rachel and her work have been featured in many print and online media outlets such as the New York Times, Los Angeles Times, Scientific American, Science Friday, Brain Pickings, and more. Could you pick a more diverse group of places to be featured in addition to children's books? She is the author of What's Inside a Flower, What's Inside a Caterpillar Cocoon, and What's Inside a Bird's Nest. And also some of her earlier work was about women in science and computer science, so she has a wide-ranging interest. Please join me in welcoming Rachel to the stage.
Hi, everybody. So my name's Rachel, and I am the author and illustrator of all of these books right here. So I write all the words, I draw all the pictures, and I'm what you consider to be a nonfiction author. Does anyone in the audience know what nonfiction means? Oh, I see a hand in the front. informational, not made up. That is absolutely correct. It is about things that are real. So I like to talk about how the world works, the science behind our world, and I also like to talk about why the world works the way it does. And a lot of times when you're talking about why things are the way they are, you're really talking about history. Now, can anyone here tell me the name of a genre of books that's about someone's real life? Does anyone know what the genre of someone's real life? All the way up there. Oh, like the kind of book that's about someone's life. Marikari. It starts with a B. As a hint, we could come back to you too. B, all the way in the back. Biography, that's right. I write biography books. I like to talk about this book especially. This is my very first book, Women in Science. I wrote it in 2016. So that was 8 years ago now, and I've been actually going around the country talking to kids who are about as old as this book about my newest series that I'm talking about today. In this book, we talk about women who have gone to the deepest parts of our ocean, who have gone to outer space. And, you know, I was just in conversation earlier today where I found out that some of the girls who read this book in middle school are now in college graduating, and they have sent me pictures of themselves holding this book because they brought it with them to college to sort of give them strength through midterms and all that hard stuff. So it's been such a joy to write this book, and it was on the New York Times bestseller list for over 2 years and has been translated into over 25 different languages. Now, thank you. Now, she read the book, so I already know that all you guys like science. Who here also likes art? Who here likes sports? Well, I like all those things too, which is why I decided to continue the series with women in art and women in sports. Now, I have a tricky question here for you guys. Who here knows the definition of ecosystem? Who knows the definition of ecosystem? What is it? Yes, it is the living things of a environment. So the animals and the plants, it's the way they interact with each other, but it's also the way they interact with the not living parts of their environment, like the weather and the rocks and all that good stuff. So who here has visited the ocean? Oh, yeah. Who here has visited the desert? Now, the animals that live in the ocean are very different than the animals that live in the desert. Am I right? Yeah, I'm right. Now, in this book, I talk about different ecosystems that are all over the world, why they're important, how we can better protect them, and I really try to instill this idea of ecological benefits. The earth is working hard for us, and guess what? If we just let it do its thing, we're going to get so many benefits rather than disrupting these natural places. Now, here's a serious question. Who here plays video games? Oh, yeah. On the count of 3, can I hear your favorite video game? 1, 2, 3. Mario Kart! Mario Kart's my favorite video game! Oh, Smash Brothers! Yeah! Well, okay, do you know the machine? Minecraft. The machines that render Mario Kart and Minecraft and all that create the graphics and do all the calculations to react in real time. That machine is actually a computer. Now, who here uses their computer to do their work? Who here uses their computer to draw? I know I do. In fact, all of the art that I make is made on my computer. And I love computers so much, and I've been drawing on my computer since I was 7 years old, that I wanted to find out more about, hey, where did this crazy tool come from? So in this book, we start with the first prehistoric people drawing in the sand, carving on bone to create mathematical tools to expand their mental abilities. And for them, it was simple things like counting the amount of sheep that they owned. We go all the way through the Industrial Revolution, World War II, where computers were made as machines of war, through the personal computer revolution, and all the way to little baby Rachel being able to draw on a little computer in her library. And that is the journey that we take in the history of the computer. Now, back to what we're here to talk about today. My first book series that is specifically made for elementary school curriculum. What's Inside a Flower was the very first one. Now, who here has a garden? Does anyone here have a garden? What is your favorite flower? With a hand raised, can someone tell me what their favorite flower is? What's your favorite flower? Sunflowers. You know what? That's actually my favorite flower, too. And I like flowers and my garden so much that I wanted to write a life cycle book about how a seed becomes a flower. But I don't just like flowers. I also love all the bugs that are in my garden. On the count of 3, the bugs. On the count of 3, can I hear what your favorite bug is? 1, 2, 3. I heard a lot of people say butterfly. Well, guess what? That's my favorite bug, too. So in this book, we talk about the life cycles of both moths and butterflies, which both start off as caterpillars, and we talk about their beautiful metamorphosis. But we're not here to read this book, are we? Absolutely not. We're here to read my newest book. On the count of 3, what is the name of my newest book? What's Inside a Bird's Nest? So let's read. What's Inside a Bird's Nest? And other questions about nature and life cycles. Oop. Chirp, chirp, chirp. All around the world, baby birds want their breakfast. Can I hear you say chirp, chirp, chirp like you're a hungry bird? Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we're hungry. Bird parents rush to find food for their babies. They soar above the clouds. They zigzag through trees. They dive into the sea, swoop down from cliffs, hunt in the moonlight, and splash across ponds. Birds return home with a tasty meal for their young. For many, this home is wherever they build a nest. Some nests are way up high. Others are hidden inside old trees. Some birds nest down low or even underground, while other birds weave nests among the plants and flowers. All bird begins life as a what? What do birds begin life as? Egg, an egg. I see you in the top. That's right. Eggs can be colorful, have spots and speckles, and some birds lay many eggs, and others lay only one. But how does an egg become a bird? Why are birds important? What's inside a bird's nest? Science will help us answer those questions. Before there can be an egg, a bird needs to find a mate. It all starts with a courtship. Sound is how birds communicate. Springtime comes alive with a frenzy of bird calls. Tweet, tweet. Songbirds let out a tune to attract a partner. Complicated songs are how these birds show off their strength and skill. So, song is just one way that birds attract a mate. Before I flip the slide to reveal the answers, can anyone here tell me other ways that birds attract each other to attract a mate? All the way up in the top, yell it loud. They dance. That is absolutely correct. What's another way that birds attract each other to get a mate? Okay, right here. They impress with their bright feathers. That is absolutely correct. All the way up there. They build fancy structures. That is absolutely correct. Okay, one more. Yeah, they fight each other. Yeah, they do fight each other. Yeah. They go crazy. Okay, one more. Yes? They do. They use their colors to attract a mate. And there's one that I haven't heard that I'm still thinking of. Let's see if there's a straggler who can get it. One more. I see a little hand. Do you have an idea? It's okay. What about gift giving? Ah, yes, the love languages. The love languages, gift giving. So, like I said, song is just one of the ways birds attract a mate. They do dances, they have colorful displays, they give gifts. I know I would, if someone gave me a little fish, I'd give a kiss. I would. And there's even a kind of bird that builds a work of art. So, yes, they do build structures. And there are birds like this hummingbird, whose relationship lasts only seconds, while there are other birds like those parrots, whose pair lasts a lifetime. But most bird behavior falls somewhere in between. Pair bonds usually last for at least one mating season. When a bird mates, the male bird fertilizes the female's egg. Pair-bonded birds will raise their young together. To prepare for new eggs, birds build a nest. It's hard work, but worth it. A nest will cradle the eggs and keep them hidden from hungry predators. Finding the perfect place for a fragile egg is important. Birds are born knowing how to build their nests. Instinct tells them what to do. So can anyone here name some of the materials that birds use to build their nests? Materials. Oh, what is the material in the black? Mud, leaves, twigs, stuff like that. That is absolutely correct. Anyone have any other ideas? What do birds use to build a nest? Leaves and grass. That is absolutely correct. In the front, what do birds use to build a nest? Moss. That is absolutely correct. Sometimes they'll line their nest with moss to make it nice and soft. One more in the back. Animal fur, like found fur, animal fur. Yeah. I'm just saying fur over and over again. That is absolutely correct. So there are birds that build nests that are gigantic, like that bald eagle, while others are teeny tiny. See that little hummingbird up there? It uses spider silk to help build its nest. And there are birds that create complicated weavings, and those who make just a simple scrape or mound in the dirt. So you all probably already know this, but different bird species, very different behavior. Oh, come on. Whoop. Once the nest is completed, the female bird lays her egg. Birds sit on their eggs to keep them warm. Does anyone know what the term is when birds... What's the term? Incubation. Can I hear you all say incubation? That's what it's about, guys. Eggs need constant warmth to grow. Their nest acts like a cozy sweater. What's inside an egg? An egg starts out as a single cell. A fertilized egg has an embryo. This is an unhatched bird in its earliest stages. Cells divide and multiply, building different body parts. Each part of the egg helps the embryo become a bird. Birds must guard their nests. Eggs make tasty meals for many animals. Can anyone here name an animal that eats eggs? What's an animal that eats eggs? Snakes. Snakes eat eggs. That's absolutely correct. What's an animal that eats eggs? Raccoons. That's absolutely right. Raccoons. You guys both got it. There's also other birds, predatory birds that might also like to eat eggs. Another in the black. Foxes will eat an egg. Okay, we'll take one more. Okay, right here. Cats. Cats will eat an egg. And you know who else likes eating eggs? Right here. Me. I like eating eggs, and I will not apologize for it. I love a good egg, and if I found one, I'd eat one. I'd try it. Predators like snakes, cats, foxes, and even other birds. They see nests as a cookie jar filled with goodies. There are also certain kinds of birds that could be a big problem. There are sneaky birds that lay their eggs in others' nests. Let's talk about what's going on right here. That is a baby cuckoo. That's a big baby, right? And who's that? That's an adult reed warbler whose attention has become completely monopolized by this infiltrator, a cuckoo who laid their egg in that warbler's nest. The cuckoo has kicked out all the other babies, and man, that's a big problem, am I right? Birds squawk and fight to defend their nests. Others lead predators away by faking an injury, just like this killdeer bird. And some will nest to tough neighbors. This bird right here, it nests inside of a wasp's nest, and the wasps sting anyone who tries to get too near its babies. And there are others, like the sociable weaver, who find strength in numbers, and they build a giant colony of nests. With time and care, a baby bird is ready to hatch. It's a mixed age group, but I think you guys are ready to do this with me. Who's ready to tend to be an egg? We're all little eggs. Are you guys ready to wiggle? Peck with your little egg tooth and pop? We've hatched, everyone. Can I hear you chirp, chirp, chirp like a little hungry hatchling? That's right. Many birds are born blind, bald, and noisy. A newborn bird is called a hatchling. Birds grow at different speeds. Most birds that nest in trees are born completely dependent on their parents, while many ground nesting birds and water birds hatch with fluffy feathers and can walk. Some birds break out of their shells ready to swim and hunt for food. So like I said before, different species, very different behavior. Hatchlings grow their first fuzzy feathers and open their eyes. They are now nestlings. Babies are fed constantly to become big and strong. When a bird is nearly ready to leave the nest, it's called a fledgling. Fledglings practice flying by hopping and flapping their wings. Who here is ready to be a fledgling with me? Ready to hop and flap your wings? That's right. That's how we do it. Soon they leave the nest for their first flight. They are now juvenile birds. That's right. They learn to hunt as their colorful feathers grow in. Old feathers fall out. Does anyone here know what it's called when old feathers fall out and new feathers grow in? I see a hand. Molting! They're molting! And once they are fully grown and have their beautiful adult feathers, birds soar through the sky, ready to take on the world. Birds are the only animals with feathers. A feather's special shape allows a bird to fly. Okay, I think you guys will know the answer to this question. Can anyone here name an extinct animal that's not a bird that had feathers? I see a confident hand in the back. Some species of dinosaurs, like raptors, that's right. Only certain types of theropods, hit my hand. Only certain types of theropods had feathers. So what does that make birds related to? Makes them related to dinosaurs, right? Pretty wild. Birds are built for flight. Their bones are hollow, which make them light. Birds need a lot of food to power their flight. There are birds that are fierce hunters. Birds of prey are carnivores that eat meat. Birds hunt in the air, the land, and the sea. And some are scavengers. Now, can anyone here tell me how scavengers get food? How do scavengers eat? Yes. They find food. That is absolutely right. They find dead things to eat. That is absolutely correct. And you know what? That's a great thing because it would be a bummer if the roadkill just stayed on the road. Isn't it nice that we have nature's cleanup crew, like these turkey vultures, to help clean it up? Most birds are opportunistic and will eat both meat and plants. Animals with this diet are called omnivores. Seeds, fruit, and insects are a favorite meal, especially for these smaller birds that you may have seen in your garden. Every bird is part of nature's complicated food web. Birds are nature's gardeners. Those that munch on plants, sometimes they'll drop a seed as they snack. Some birds hide seeds and that they're going to eat later, just like a squirrel hiding its nuts. Fallen and forgotten seeds can end up in the soil. And then, if they're real lucky, they can be planted. Birds hunt on insects that feast on crops. They are nature's pest control. Eating means pooping. And birds, they poop a lot. Bird poop is a fertilizer filled with nutrients. This creates rich soil for plants to grow. And bird poop that has undigested seeds, sometimes that means with each poop, they're planting a seed. And with a splat, those seeds get planted. Bird migration. Now, does anyone here know the definition of migration? What is in the black hoodie? What's the definition of migration? We can come back to you later. Okay, what is the definition of migration? In the red, what's the definition of migration? Yes, it's moving. It's an animal journey. Can anyone here name an animal that's not a bird that goes on a migration? What's an animal that's not a bird that migrates? A monarch butterfly. That is absolutely correct. Who here has seen the monarch butterfly in San Diego? I know I have. Here, can anyone name another animal that's not a bird that migrates? Right there in the hoodie. Let's try again. A whale! Yes, whales also migrate. A lot of animals go on journeys, and one of the largest animal journeys is the migration of birds, because the changing seasons triggers this. Winter weather means a lot of fewer resources, and certain birds will fly heroic distances in search of warmth and food. How does a bird know where to go each year? Well, birds navigate using the sun and stars, and birds also have a special sense that can tell them where the north and south poles are, just like a compass. Cold weather in fall tells migratory birds to fly south for warmth, while seasons changing from winter to spring tell them to return north. Each year, many birds return to where they were born to lay their eggs and build a nest. Adult birds court and find a mate. A nest is built for new eggs. Eggs are laid and incubated. Baby birds hatch and are cared for. Babies grow feathers and practice flying. They take their first flight, and fully matured, they are now ready to find a mate. The cycle of life continues. We have also learned what's inside a bird's nest and why birds are important. Birds help keep nature in balance, they help plant seeds, and bird poop returns nutrients to the land and sea. And also, certain species of birds are keystone species. Can anyone here tell me what the definition of keystone species is? Right there. Yeah, that is absolutely correct. A keystone species, if they are removed, it is bad news for the rest of the environment. That's because other animal and wildlife species depend on them. Just like this pileated woodpecker right here, it's poking holes, it's doing its thing, and just by living its life, it's actually creating animal habitats for tons of other species. If that pileated woodpecker went away, oh boy, that would be a big problem. And there are also birds that are pollinators. Can anyone tell me the definition of pollinator? Definition of pollinator, all the way up in the back. That is absolutely correct. Birds that are pollinators, and like all pollinators, they spread the pollen from one flower to another, because many flowers need pollen from a different flower to be able to create new seeds. What are some other animals that are pollinators besides this hummingbird right here? Can anyone here name an animal that's a pollinator? A bee. That is a good one. One more. What's another animal that's a pollinator that is not a bird? A butterfly. That is absolutely correct. You got it too. Okay, we'll take one more. Yeah. Yeah, there are certain types of bats that will also be pollinators. And just like a precious egg, birds need our protection, and there is many ways we can help. What are something that you can do to help protect birds? Right there. You can build birdhouses. That's absolutely correct. You could build birdhouses for them to build their nests, especially if they are the type of birds that build their nests in cavities. That's absolutely correct. Another thing, someone I haven't called on before. Let me see. Let's see. I'll call on someone I've called on before. Here you go. Picking up our trash. That's right. Let's stop littering and let's also stop pollution. Okay, one more. Bird feeders, let's help feed birds. And you know what else we could do? We can plant native gardens and replace our lawns with diverse gardens filled with plants that animals can use for habitats and food. I know you guys are planting one right here in the San Diego Natural History Museum. You know what else we could do? Cats. Cats eat birds. So if you have a cat, who here has a cat? Yeah, you guys got a lot of cats. Make sure your cat's not eating a bird when it goes outside. And we could protect our planet and wild spaces. Protecting our planet starts with learning more. How will you keep exploring? Our Earth is filled with wonder and discovery. And just like this hungry baby bird, you'll feed your curiosity to grow and learn more. The end. Oop. Okay, now I have a little video that talks about what it's like to be a nonfiction author. So we're going to put the lights down low and we're going to play a video. And then after that, we're going to be taking your questions. So while you're watching this video, if you can think of a question that you would want to ask me, adults especially welcome, what it's like to be an author, what it's like to be an illustrator. Maybe it's about the book we just read or one of the books that I have written before. Think about it because we're going to do a long Q&A after this. Hi, I'm Rachel Ignotofsky, and this is what it's like to be a nonfiction author. So I have written a lot of books about a lot of different topics. And what always comes first is the research. So I like to go on these little field trips where I visit museums, I've even hiked in jungles, I've dug for fossils, and I like to get my hands dirty in whatever the topic is. For my book, The History of the Computer, I even started my own vintage computer collection with toys and machines from the 1970s and 80s that I used as my models for my illustration. For my What's Inside series, which have titles like What's Inside a Caterpillar's Cocoon, What's Inside a Flower, I was really inspired by the biology in my own backyard, and I even planted my own pollinator garden. When the research is done, that's when I start a book map. And it can be really, really messy at first. But once I've kind of solidified all my ideas and organized my thoughts, I start working on black and white rough drafts. For my picture books, like What's Inside a Bird's Nest, I do the illustration, the writing, the infographics all at once. Illustration is really my passion. Nonfiction authors really approach their works in different ways. I primarily use my computer to illustrate, but when it comes to textures and line work, I like to use traditional materials. I paint, I sketch with marker, I draw with pencils, because it's only in the chaos of real life can you get these happy accidents that can make your illustrations look really special. I love learning about science and history, so I feel in many ways that nonfiction chose me. My books are a way for me to share my favorite topics with you. So I hope you have fun reading and learning more about our universe. Hooray! Okay, so now I'm I'm ready to take your questions. Does anyone have any questions for me? I see all the way in the back in the hoodie. In the video, there is a robot reading me that book. That is Omnibot, and that is from 1984, and we bought that from a longshoreman in Long Beach. And we bring a smaller version of that out with us when we do our booth at San Diego Comic-Con. So if you want to play with any of our vintage computers, we bring them to San Diego Comic-Con. Yeah. Right here. How did I decide I was going to write books? So, I always have loved books. And when I first graduated from college, all the way back in 2011, I knew that I wanted to become an author, but at the same time, I knew books are they're a long process, and in my opinion, they require funding for me to be able to do and then also be able to eat. So instead, I created poster series that I knew I wanted to become books. So for me, the posters got really popular, especially my Women in Science series. And I was approached by publishers who were like, would you like to write and illustrate these books? And I went, absolutely. Here's my pitch. I'm ready to go. Just give me that money. So yeah, that's kind of how the process went for that. Another question, right here in the front. What helped me decide that I wanted to write about nature? Well, I like to write about, there are three things that really inspire me. One is there like a problem that I see that I can help fix with my artwork? So one of the largest problems that we have is the fight for scientific literacy. And I think that a science education can start at the very, very beginning. And often that means life cycle science, which means nature. Two, I like to write things about what I'm actually interested in myself. So I right now live in Santa Barbara. I was going on all these hikes. The bluebirds that I'm drawing, they live in I literally have bluebirds who are living right across the street from me, and I watch them build their nests. I live on the monarch butterfly migration. I planted a bunch of milkweed. I got to watch the monarchs transform. And the third thing is, are they teaching it in classrooms? And I read science curriculum, and I made sure that these books aligned exactly with it. So all those things go into creating a topic about what I would pitch to a publisher to then write the book. Okay, right here. What is my favorite hike that I've been on? My favorite hike of all times is in Arches National Park. I like all of them. I don't know the name of the one that I especially like. It was actually right next to Arches. It was actually the Bureau of Land Management, and you got to see dinosaur footprints before climbing through a bunch of really cool arches. So that was my favorite hike. Okay, any other questions? I see right there in the back. Two questions. What inspired me to do my book? Well, for What's Inside a Bird's Nest? Any book. Well, like I was saying before, if it's something that I'm interested in and also something that I think they'll want to teach in schools, then I know it's going to be an A-plus book to do. For my book, Women in Science, I was actually inspired by an article that I read about the growing gender gap that was in the sciences. Women were graduating with STEM degrees, but they weren't landing jobs for some reason. And I thought maybe I could help by talking about female scientists throughout all of history that were a part of, that, weren't really being taught in schools, to try to normalize women in STEM roles. So again, if there's a problem or if there's something I'm interested in, or if it's something that I think teachers can use in schools, that is what inspires me to write a book. Okay, any other questions? Maybe this side, right here. Who are my idols growing up? Oh man. For me, if you're going to talk about like art idols, I used to read these little books that were like World's Greatest Artists, where you got to read about different artists. And for me, like Frida Kahlo, like blew my mind. And I just loved her so much, and I thought she was so cool that for my, this is kind of embarrassing, for my senior high school thesis, I also did like a series of self-portraits. I was like, in high school, I'm like, me. I am not as talented as Frida Kahlo, so I do not continue to do self-portraits, but that she was a big inspiration for me. And being able to draw her in my book, Women in Art, and like kind of recreate her artwork in my own style for some of the spot illustrations was like, it was major. Okay, any other questions? In the back, in the red. That's a great question. I use Adobe Photoshop, and the way that I incorporate sort of the textures and line work, I don't like using Photoshop brushes to make my textures. Instead, I'll draw them in black and white. So I use inks, I use markers, I use like pencils. I scan them in, and then I separate them out in channels to keep the pixel opacity locked. And then I overlay them. So for me, Photoshop is almost like, I use it kind of like I use it like MS Paint. I've been drawing since I was like 7 on MS Paint, and I'm using Photoshop the same way. But then I also kind of use sort of this collage technique as well. More questions? Any other questions? Right here. Aspiring authors and illustrators, if you are in high school, I really, really suggest taking college classes, pre-college classes outside of school, especially for art, if you're going to pursue it the artist route. Get your portfolio ready. And also, going to an art school that has the connections and also focuses in the kind of art that you want to make. That's also really, really important. And for those who are adults, make, put it out there, get it seen, build an audience. It's kind of a catch-22. You have to build your audience before publishers will be interested in you. But in doing that hard labor, you're going to refine your product as well. Okay, any other questions? Any other questions? Right there. Oh man, well, like, Magic School Bus, definitely. I used to read these big, thick DK books that were filled with like photographs and those giant, like, sort of Smithsonian readers for kids. Those were really big part of me growing up. And then, like I said before, I was like obsessed with these. They were called Meet. I think they were called Meet Your Favorite Artist by. Oh God, I think the author's name was Michael Vasquez, and he would make these tiny little comic books about different artists, and I felt just so cool when I was like in first grade, and I like went up to my teacher and I was like, oh, like I know who Picasso is, and like she was just trying to do this little craft with us, and I was like, and she was like, we're gonna create like cubism. I'm like, this isn't cubism, this is surrealism. You're a fool. Like, and I was just like so mean to my first grade art teacher, but I felt really cute. Looking back, I'm like, oh, this is like the little confidence you need to make it through the world as an artist when you can't even write your own name. Okay, right here. What is my favorite book that I wrote? Oh man, I always like to say the newest one. So right now it's What's Inside a Bird's Nest, but really my favorite book that I wrote was probably The History of the Computer, because I got to learn so much while writing that, and I also got to put a lot of junk in my house with the help of my husband, who made the collection happen. Okay, another question. Yes, right there. Oh, that's a good question. So I'm actually working. I just got it back from the fact checker. The newest book is called Dinosaurs, Exploring Prehistoric Life in Geological Time. I know you guys like dinosaurs, so we're going to go all the way back to the formation of the Earth and Moon, and we're going to move through geological time all the way to the dinosaurs, and then we go past the dinosaurs all the way to woolly mammoths and us. Okay, yes. Would I ever consider writing a book about space and planets? Maybe. I'm not allowed to talk about future books. Future crimes. Okay, one more. Rabbits? Do I plan on writing books regarding rabbits? No plans yet to do a rabbit-focused book. That sounds, oh, like burrows. That sounds, no plans right now for burrows, but that sounds like a super cool idea, and I think you should write that book, and don't give that cool idea to me. Okay, I think we have time for maybe, oh, yes? Yeah. So, he's saying that we don't have many insects around, and he wanted to know why and encourage more people to start looking into that. That question's a little above my pay grade, because I have a BFA in graphic design, but I know there's a lot of insect scientists at the museum who can dive into that way more. I could make up some like the thing is, I try not to encourage myself to make up answers confidently. I can make up a bunch of answers of why I think there aren't insects, but I think an insect scientist could better answer that question. Anyone have another question? Another? Oh, thank you. Right here. How did I get the information for the history of the computer book? There was a lot that went into that one. So, one, before the big shutdown, I actually got to visit some really cool museums. The Living Computer Museum in Seattle, which actually closed down permanently, where you could touch and play with everything. And then I also went to the Computer Museum that's in San Jose, in Mountain View, that's really, really, really cool, which you can still go visit. And then when everything shut down, we actually started building our own computer collection. So we bought a bunch of vintage computers from the 1980s and 70s to use as our models. I also read a ton of books. So you got to read books to make books. So we read thick, 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 thick books that were like this thick, and we read and read and read until we kind of had all the information organized and spread out, and we actually had to edit down. There was a little bit, there was like a 5-paragraph essay that I wrote about like Q4 of like 1994 about browsers. And I was like, why am I doing this? Who's going to read this? This is not a browser war book. Okay, but anyway, you got to read books, you got to visit places, and you also have to talk to experts. That are the 3 cool things. And also, the internet is also a great source, but you have to be careful navigating that. Those are the ways that you kind of get all your research done for a nonfiction book. Okay, we got one more question in the back. What's your question? How does a bird lay their eggs? Oh, it comes out of their cloaca. They got one hole for everything, and there it goes. I'm sorry. Okay, we got one more. Oh, I love this question. She's excited that I'm going to be down at Comic-Con, and she's asking me what's going to be at my booth and what are my 3 favorite things to do at Comic-Con. So I am going to be at booth 1631, I believe, yep, at Comic-Con, right next to Heavy Metal Magazine and Snoopy. So... And at my booth, we have all of my art prints, all of my books for sale, my puzzles, my postcards, but we also have our vintage computers. We have a Commodore PET from 1977 and a 1984 Macintosh, all loaded up with games. So if you want to come and just play with our computers, you can do that too. And my 3 favorite things to do at Comic-Con, other than sling those books and sometimes panel, is that I love seeing all the crazy costumes. I love going to a panel with my favorite artists. And I also just like walking around the Seaport Village when it's really quiet at night after working a 10-hour day. Those are the three things that I like to do at Comic-Con. Okay, what is the time? How are we doing on time? How many more questions can we take? I think we could just keep going. One more. There is a bug called a worm. It lives on the ground and it can eat food. It oh the well I don't know if the I guess yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's eating everything. Yeah, that is a great comment. I also love the wormies on the grounds that eat the dirt and eat the leaves. I like to hold them too. I do like to hold them too. And I see another question right here. Am I going to make more books about bugs? Is that the question? There aren't any plans right now, but who knows? The future is long, and every year I publish a book. So stay tuned. Okay. Any more questions? Any of the adults in the audience have a question? If you guys think of a question, I am going to be signing books out, I believe, in the lobby. And you guys can ask me a question then. I am also going to be signing anything. If you brought something from home you want me to sign, if you're going to buy something here you want me to sign, I'm here to sign anything you want to sign. So thank you so much for having me, and have a wonderful rest of your night at the museum. Thank you.